I'm Lance Phillips. Happy belated Canada Day to our Canadian friends, and happy 4th of July to our American friends. I'm going to celebrate it, Kinger, by getting drunk on a ton of tariffed whiskey. How about you?
I'm Chris King. I will not be drinking tariff whiskey, but maybe some local Ribstone Creek beer or something like that. Keeping it local, supporting local. You know how it is.
Yeah, I won't actually get drunk on whiskey. I can't even do it.
It is a Wednesday, so
Good point.
midweek's a tough one for anyone.
You haven't seen the life of a journalist, have you?
No.
It happens, baby. That's the way it goes.
Sounds dark.
We live in dark places, that is for sure. Okay, Lance Phillips, Chris King with you for The Gloves Are Off. Now listen, Kinger, we are excited.
Yeah.
You're excited quickly because we have a special guest coming on the show.
Yeah.
She'll be up after our first block. Hannah Nordman, a girl I went to school with who works at Sportsnet, is very familiar with domestic abuse, is very familiar with that sort of situation. Her voice is going to be huge for the show, given what's been going on lately. So coming up here, we got Jameis Winston, we have the Calgary Flames, Duron Carter, LeBron James is going to the LA Kings.
LeBron James?
Has gone. LeBron James, the Blue Jays, and their domestic abuse situation. But we will start it off, King, with John Tavares. The Maple Leafs made the biggest splash, arguably the biggest splash of free agency, signing John Tavares to a 7-year, $77 million contract. But the Leafs still lack a bit defensively, Kinger. So the question now is, does this Tavares signing make up for the Leafs' defensive woes?
It's starting to help, right? You got a center that plays two ways, a point per game guy. He's really good in his defensive zone. He is not a D-man, so
which is what they need.
But it helps their defensive presence, but I think they're going to sign a couple guys. He's an elite player. I'm kind of worried about how you were so close on guessing this contract. Do you know someone in the Leafs organization?
I went 7 years, $78 million.
You missed it by $1 million. It's like you know his agent or someone on the inside.
No idea.
No, but this helps. This is a huge get for them. Huge get.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of, it's like a horse race almost. Not a horse race, but a back and forth race. So, the Leafs are going to go down and score, then the other team's going to come down and score. That's what it feels like. It feels like a basketball game where it's just run and gun, right, all the time. The Leafs are not better defensively. Well, maybe they are because they lost Roman Polak, so they could be better defensively, but they don't have Leo Komarov anymore. I believe this team has taken a bit of a step back defensively. Now, they really need guys like Morgan Riley, Connor Carrick to step up in a big way. And I don't know they can do that. And that's the part that worries me. I mean, last season, they were 28th against in shots per game at 33.9. That's not going, I don't see that getting better.
Not great.
I don't see that getting better. Now, they're going to need, they're going to need great goaltending all year again. I don't know if they're done. I mean, we might see them sign a couple more players. It's possible they could get another D-man, but man, I don't know if that offensive prowess makes up for that lack of defense. I'm not sure it does.
I think it gives them the chance to win those shootouts because ultimately, who wins a hockey game? Who scores more goals, right?
Well, that's true, but if you can't stop the team from scoring goals, that doesn't help you at all.
And it's almost like, you have him, now you got all these other assets, all the young guys. Maybe you trade some of these young guys for an elite D-man. Like maybe that's what they're doing now, stockpiling those young guys.
Maybe you can deal a guy like Nylander if that's the way you want to go, but something's got to give here. They picked up Ron Hainsey last year, at the trade or at the free agency period. I'm not convinced that this team is good enough defensively they're good enough offensively to make up for the defensive situation. It's not great.
The Toronto Blue Jays are announcing that Roberto Osuna will be returning from his suspension and be the closer for the Jays the rest of the season. Lance, is this a mistake by the Toronto Blue Jays?
I cannot get over what a huge mistake this is. This is monumental. And what frustrates me is that, I was online on the weekend with Twittering, and got into it with a guy who said that, he made the point that, most fans want to see wins on the field and not moral wins. So it's nice that he's speaking for most fans. So, and I asked him to ask abused women how they feel about that.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what it is. I love watching the Blue Jays. They're Canada's only baseball team. I love cheering for them. I do not care if that guy closes. I do not care if he's not the closer. I do not care. And the fact that they just didn't, they didn't even think about it. It just came straight out, and this is our closer, and we see no reason why he shouldn't be. He beat the crap out of a woman allegedly. So that's a pretty good reason.
You and I are on the same page on this. There's no place in sports for this.
There's no place. There's no place anywhere for this.
Correct. But it seems, and hopefully we'll talk about this a little later, it seems that like sports seems to trump the awful things that some guys do. And the people that argue this, like Lance, in your Twitter world when you're arguing that, right, are the people that have no idea how this affects women and family and people,
or maybe
society.
Maybe worse, Kinger, don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care how it affects women, and that's the troublesome part. And what's amazing to me is, how do you feel now if you are Sportsnet's Jays reporter Hazel May? How do you feel? Because you can't feel good about this, but you've got to report on this team.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to speak to this guy when he comes back. You're going to have to report on this.
Yeah, and you have to act like that didn't matter.
It didn't affect you. And there's no way that it didn't affect her in some way.
Anyone, it affect anyone, like especially a female reporting for the team. I don't know. I'd feel really uncomfortable having that conversation.
That's a real tough conversation to have. And I think if I'm the Jays, I'm uncomfortable putting my female fans in. I am uncomfortable putting my female fans in this situation.
Yeah.
We got a guy who was charged and arrested for beating up a woman, and we are going to bring him back. We're not even thinking about it. We're going to bring him back.
Yeah, they're behind him essentially.
The Leafs made the biggest free agency splash, but in the NBA, it was the LA Lakers. Yeah, you can make a case for the Golden State Warriors, couldn't you, Kinger?
You could now, yeah.
Yeah, you could with Boogie, but I don't think that's the case. So it was the LA Lakers making the biggest splash, signing LeBron James to a hefty 4-year, $135 million deal. James has gone to the West, but does this make the Lakers a legitimate threat in that conference?
Not yet.
Not yet. It does all.
It does not.
Makes them a threat to win a few more games.
It makes them a threat to land free agents. Yeah, I think they could slide into the 8th seed right now.
Rajon Rondo.
They signed a bunch of. They signed Rondo, McGee, Stevenson, a bunch of aging guys. It's like LeBron goes there, and they have the world at their fingertips, and then they're like, you know what? Let's sign a bunch of old, washed-up guys and make this as difficult as possible for LeBron. Now, I do not like him going there, but the Lakers have a ton of young players for assets. They're clearly going to trade to get someone beside LeBron. Once he's done his vacation, I think he's going to say, hey, I need another guy if we're going to win. It seems like this is in place for the Kawhi Leonard either trade or free agency signing next year is what this move was. But the Lakers now are legit because they have LeBron.
So if you are the, first of all, as it pertains to LeBron, no, the Lakers are not a threat in the West right now. They're going to win some more games. But this is not a team, it's a team that missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this is not a team that is going to all of a sudden, turn things around and going to be a contender against the Golden State Warriors or the Houston Rockets.
OKC even. There's like 5 good teams.
So, the thing that's interesting about this is I was adamant that I didn't think he'd sign there because he wants to win championships. And this is abundantly clear. He's put championships on hold right now. And what I'm seeing at LeBron James is we're seeing him involved a little more in acting. We're seeing him involved in some things away from basketball. And this move, to me, actually sets him up to do more of that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure he has a production company as well.
He does have a production company.
So he's going to be in contact with big players in Hollywood. This sets him up to be even more of a force outside of basketball and essentially solidifying him as making even more money once his career is over.
And that's why he went there. His Magic Johnson's so good business-wise. He really looks up to Magic. This was his business move as much as basketball.
So if you want a career in showbiz, go to the Lakers.
Yes.
If you want a career in basketball, go to Golden State.
Correct.
Okay, got
Correct.
it. Got it.
Deron Carter once again got roasted this weekend at cornerback. Roasted. Montreal Alouettes wide receivers are going past him all day. Is it time for Chris Jones to end the cornerback test with Deron Carter?
I'm going to answer that, Kinger, but first I want to say that I made toast on the weekend, but I left it in the toaster for too long and it smelled burnt real bad. But it didn't smell as burnt as the smell coming out of my television watching Deron Carter play cornerback. Yes, this has got to end now. This has to end immediately. He is being beaten like a rented mule out there. Like, just stop this experiment with Deron Carter at cornerback. He's an elite wide receiver in the league. I mean, we've seen him make circus catches that the guys in the NFL don't make. You've got to put him in a position where he can thrive, and this is not it. This is not it.
Well, I think this is hurting the Riders on 2 fronts right now.
Oh, it's killing them.
So defensively, he's not good, and we were talking about it pre-show. Like, his feet are planted, and he's getting beat. He's making up because he's long on some of these plays, but he's getting beat almost every single time.
Yes.
The other thing is, one of the best receivers in the CFL had 1 reception for 9 yards in that game because he's got to play defense.
Yeah,
just let him play offense and throw the ball down the field to him.
And the Riders are already in a situation where their quarterback situation is bleak. I mean, without Caleros in the lineup, they're in trouble right now. So you need to have as many offensive weapons as you can. It's interesting because I think that you're seeing opposing wideouts line up at the line of scrimmage or 5 yards back or 10, and they're looking across and seeing, that's Jerron Carter. And they just start salivating. Like, they can't wait to run against this guy. Whereas if he's that guy, the cornerbacks that he's up against are probably looking at him and thinking, oh, I got to deal with Carter again, right? He has got to be offensive. And if this doesn't stop, if Jones continues to do this, it's going to be Chris Jones' job. It's going to be Chris Jones' job. You cannot lose games 23-17 to the Montreal Alouettes, who are completely inept, and continue to get away with it.
Yep. It's on the
how long do you think he's got? How long do you think Chris Jones has?
I think this weekend he better not be playing defense. I'll tell you that right now.
He's going to be playing defense. I'm almost certain of it.
I hope not. I hope not.
Previous to free agency, the Calgary Flames made a splash signing Elias Lindholm, trading for Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin. Then at free agency made another splash signing Derek Ryan and James Neal. James, the real deal, Neil Kinger. How much better is this team right now? And maybe more so, what do these moves do for the Flames? And I'm not talking Hannafin and Lindholm. We talked about that last week, but I'm more concerned about the James Neal, Derek Ryan situation.
Well, you added a top-tier sniper, a first-line winger, and you added a third-line center or second-line center, depending on how you want to play them. It makes them a lot better. This team adds depth, it adds scoring, it adds some grit. I think you look at this team now, and I think when I look at the roster with all the moves, this is a playoff team. This could be a 5 seed in the world.
I mean, I believe that the Flames finished 4th in the Pacific last season and just narrowly missed out on the playoffs. That's not going to happen again.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen again. And we talked about how the movement of defensemen makes a big difference. So moving Brody back with Giordano makes a huge difference. But this James Neal signing alone, I think James Neal has always been a guy who's a little underrated. I think he's a way better producer than a lot of people give him credit for. But you see what he did with Vegas. He was great. You saw what he did with Pittsburgh. He was fantastic with Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And you know, hopefully he can do it with the Flames. And I say hopefully for the Flames. And I would expect that he can do that again.
Well, and he's one of those rare offensively gifted forwards that actually isn't a liability on the defensive end. Like, he's solid all the way across the ice. So if you look at him and what you're going to pay him to be a scorer, to play a power play, to play first line, you're not losing anything defensively. So let's guys shuffle down into more natural spots on their lineup. And I think that's the big thing for the Flames is now you're going to have an elite top-end line, and your second line's going to be comparable to the best teams in the NHL.
That Goudreau, the depth thing is huge. You cannot underestimate how much depth this gives them. That Goudreau, which will almost certainly be Goudreau, Lindholm, and Monahan, will be incredible. And then you got Neal slotting in right under them. Yeah. And then feasibly you have Derek Ryan coming in again on the third line.
Yeah,
like,
it's a nice squad.
That's going to be a good team, and I would not be surprised that that's a team that makes a run maybe at the Pacific Division this year.
Like, I'm interested to see how this season starts off for them. Jameis Winston once again finds himself in hot water. How many times, Lance, can the NFL mess up on their suspensions?
Before what? It comes back to haunt them? I think the answer is forever. I really do. I think the answer is forever. I think leagues like this can get away with this. I don't see an end in sight. It worries me. I don't see an end in sight. When you've got a game like, so here's an example. So Josh Brown received a 1-game suspension for repeatedly terrorizing his ex-wife. Jameis Winston sexually assaults an Uber driver for 3 games. And then Tom Brady, for allegedly deflating footballs, gets 4 games. We have a problem here. There's a problem. And the league, the NFL, I feel, is the worst offender, but we're seeing this continue. Leagues are not doing what's required to say to women, we have your back. And I see that I believe they can get away with this until I'm dead, because there has been over the course of history, there has never been a time when I have seen pushback to the point that leagues are like, oh, okay, we need to change this, because it continues.
And I'm waiting to see the day where that suspension is more than drug suspension or theft suspension or anything.
It should be now.
It should, yeah, 100%. And for Winston's case, okay, here's a guy that's always in trouble. He had a rape allegation in 2012.
He stole crab legs, didn't he?
Stole crab legs, right? And so he goes to the NFL and says, I'm sorry. He kind of apologizes. Doesn't admit to what he did, kind of says he's sorry. They drop it from 6 to 3 games, and I'll argue 6 games is even not enough for a repeat offender.
It's absolutely not. And he even came out afterwards and said he issued an apology to the Uber driver.
Yeah.
He apologized for groping her.
Yeah.
It's done, man. Like, you did it. You can apologize all you want. And I have there's not a doubt in my mind that when I hear about those apologies, I think that's bogus. That's him making a PR move, having to do this. And if you want to, the league needs to stand up. And I'm sorry, I'm adamant about this, and it irritates me. The league has got to step up and say, this is not acceptable. You're being suspended for whatever it is, the most amount of games that he can be suspended for, and we're not having this in our league.
And the problem is, some athletes and some people think they're above the law when it comes to this.
It's absolutely insane. Coming up on the other side, Hannah Nordman. Really excited to have her on.
Yes.
She's going to be a great voice for this kind of stuff.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
All right, welcome back, Henry. We finished that segment talking about Jameis Winston fiasco in the NFL. I mean, it's becoming really prevalent. We're seeing a lot more of it. We talked about Roberto Osuna. It's a mess.
Too much.
Yeah, it's too much. And I reached out to someone that I went to school with to get her reaction on this, because she, for a long time, well, for a year I believe it was, worked at a domestic abuse or an abuse hotline for women. So she's dealt with this firsthand. She works for Sportsnet, so she's in the field. She knows exactly kind of what's going on with this. And it's an interesting perspective from her as a woman involved in sports, that she has to still be a part of this while not wanting to be a part of it at the same time. So we'd like to welcome in Hannah Nordman. Hannah, how are you doing, my dear?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Great, Hannah. We're really glad to have you on the show. We talked about this before, and I'm glad we could finally kind of make it happen. So listen, coming down the pipe on Tuesday was the Slava Voinov situation with the conviction being dismissed in court. We've talked about the Jameis Winston situation, Roberto Osuna. What is your take on this, given you're someone who worked at a hotline, who dealt with women calling in with these types of issues? How do you feel about where these suspensions have gone?
Yeah, I volunteered at a crisis line. So abuse calls were things that I took, and I talked to people firsthand. So when I look at this in the sports world and I see the suspensions being handed down by either the team or the league, I feel like they're missing the mark time and time again. I feel like the lengths are not appropriate for the crime. I feel that next to some of the things they are suspending for, the lengths are not appropriate. The fact that you can give Tom Brady 4 games and you give Jameis Winston, who has admitted to assault, 3 games, it makes no sense to me. And I think the other biggest problem with all of this is the language that's being used.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Specifically in the Roberto Osuna case. I think that it's a sensitive topic right now. It's one of the more interesting ones because it is in the process of going to trial. There are charges laid. There are no convictions laid. The MLB has suspended him for 75 games, but there's no guilty charge as of right now. So when it comes to this, I think language is very delicate, and I think the Blue Jays totally missed the mark when they said, he's our closer, he's back August 4th. I can't think of any reason why he wouldn't be. That language to me is completely dismissive. I think that it sends completely the wrong message to your fan base and to all of the women who are fans of your team. You can't think of a single reason why you might not want to welcome him back with open arms. It makes no sense to me.
And Hannah, it's shocking to me, I coach women's basketball, it's shocking to me how little people seem to think that this affects the real world. Coaching women, I see this a little bit more, whether it's domestic or spousal abuse. It's unfortunate the way the Toronto Blue Jays are handling this, among with some other places, just because, they think, he's still our pitcher, he's still our guy. This is a bigger issue. I think you kind of touched on with the Tom Brady thing. How should they be handling this? What kind of language should they be using when they present this to the public?
I think that they should at least be less dismissive in the language that they use. I think they need to start getting the input of other women, and the way to do that is to have women in higher offices, because there currently aren't any. I think it would be really easy for them to run this by a woman and say, hey, how does this come off? And she can say, that sounds great. I think that's sensitive. I think that's a great way to handle this. Or she can say, you guys missed the mark. You come off looking completely dumb. And it saves their butt too, because they're not getting any good press out of this.
And this is the interesting thing, Hannah, is do you think, and I agree with you. I mean, we talked about this before. We had a Twitter conversation about this as it pertains to having women in front offices. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. The issue for me is, and I'll ask you this, do you think these leagues actually want women in these positions to be able to tell them that they're missing the mark here?
If they don't, they should.
I don't disagree with that, but it feels to me, and I said this before, that these leagues feel like an old boys club. And kind of this is the way we've always done it. We do not want to deviate from this. That's what it feels like. And I wonder if you get that feeling as well.
I don't. I don't think this is a case of, we don't want women in here. This is our league. This is sports. Why should women come in? I think it's genuinely from a place of ignorance. They're not seeing what they're losing. They're not seeing what they can gain from having diversity in there. And this isn't just women. I think it's people of color too. There should be more of them all over the sports landscape. It's ignorance more than it's actually wanting to exclude people. And I don't know what's worse, because coming from a place of ignorance when you have that much power is incredibly dangerous.
One of the things that it seems is some of the professional sports models, like basketball, for example, is a little more progressive in pushing females up the chain compared to, as Lance mentioned, the old boys club of, say, hockey or NFL. Do you see any difference the way that those organizations are handling these type of issues, or do we kind of paint them with a brush altogether as one?
I'm not going to award them any points for what they've done, because they've missed the mark in massive ways as well. And so no, I'm not going to give them any benefit of the doubt in the way that they handle this. It just so happens that the 3 cases that came down this week between Voinov, Winston, and Osuna have been in the other leagues. But no, I think they all need to be better, and I'm not giving credit. I'm giving credit for including more women within coaching, within management. In that regard, they're doing better, but I don't think that has translated to how they deal with domestic abuse, domestic violence, any of these issues when it comes to players.
Now, Hannah, we just finished talking about, how long can leagues get away with these subpar suspensions before, it essentially comes back to bite them. And I feel like it's a long time. Like, I feel like this is not something, because there's so many people, especially in the U.S. when it pertains to the NFL, people are not going to stop watching this league. They're not going to stop giving their money to this league, buying jerseys, all those types of things, because these suspensions aren't what we classify as harsh enough. So how do we as a society enact change, besides the way you mentioned with having women in the front office? How do we enact change? Because to me, it's as simple as, we're not giving them our money, but that is, I had a Twitter argument with a guy who said that as a fan, he wants to see victories on the field instead of moral victories. And those are the types of people you are smashing your head against a concrete wall. So how do we enact change in that way?
Yeah, I think it's unfair to put the onus on the fans. I think it's unfair to say that as a group, you all have to stop watching. You all have to stop buying things. That's the only way it'll get better. I think that speaking out helps. I think that bad press helps. The diehards are always going to watch, and you shouldn't be forced to not watch something that you love doing and you love watching. But we've seen social media be powerful before in not only changing opinions about brands, but handing down harsher sentences. People have, obviously, it comes down to sometimes videos being released, and then the pressure is too much. But people putting pressure on these organizations, on these leagues, has gotten some victories before, and I don't think that's going to stop. It takes speaking out, it takes courage, and it takes courage not only from us, especially not from us, but people within the league, other broadcasters, prominent broadcasters, coaches, other general managers. Once they start speaking out, then you will see the ball rolling. You will see things start to change. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it takes a lot of courage, and we can only do what we can do from a viewer standpoint.
Right. I've got a couple more things I want to touch on as well, but first of all, I want to go to the Becky Hammon situation. So Becky Hammon is going to be an assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs this coming season. How far ahead does that move put the Spurs than maybe any other sports team in professional sports right now? In the major sports, CFL, NFL, MLB, NHL, how far ahead are they?
I think that they're very far ahead as far as diversity. I think it's going to help the team. I think women can bring things to the table that men cannot, as far as empathy, a different viewpoint, anything that may help the team, whether it's the way the team interacts with each other, how they play on the court. The other day, Haley Wickenheiser was at Leafs development camp.
Yeah, right.
Which is amazing. You cannot get a better person to come help improve your team, the young people of your team. And still, I saw on Twitter, what can she bring? Who is she? Like, it's a women's hockey player. The wealth of knowledge you're going to get from somebody like that. I think any NHL team would be absolutely so lucky to have somebody like her on their coaching staff, on their development staff. People are going to realize that these people are so valuable to organizations, and they are right there for the taking. You could hire her today. She is not working for a team. And the fact that people don't take advantage of that is crazy to me. Once people start and they see how much it helps teams, I think all of this is exponential. You just got to get the ball rolling.
The flip side of that, and I apologize for taking kind of a negative stance again, but when we see suspensions like the Jameis Winston suspension, less than Tom Brady for allegedly deflating footballs, how far back do those suspensions set us? How far back do they set us? Because it feels like we start to gain some momentum, and then something like this happens, and we go back to the Stone Ages, and then we start to gain some momentum. So are we seeing you think we're seeing 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or are we seeing 1 step forward, 2 steps back?
I think it's trending in the right direction.
Okay.
I'd say 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Even just having people speak out against it is a huge win. Having people not stand by and just accept what the league has done. It's not like you can actually tangibly change it, but the fact that people are talking about it, that they're unhappy about it, is a step in the right direction. People are feeling outraged by these things, as they should. And where it was really scary is when you see these things happen and nobody cares. As a woman, it's scary.
Hannah, we really appreciate you taking time today. It's been really great having you on, and I think you've given some insight, maybe to our viewers, that as men we simply can't give. Yeah. And I knew you'd be a great voice for this, so I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hannah Nordman, again, works for Sportsnet, editor at Sportsnet. Yeah. Also does a CFL podcast on the fantasy side. So really good to have her on the program. And as we said, that's a great voice.
Great viewpoint.
Yeah, great viewpoints as well.
If you can't score, you might as well drop the gloves.
All right, Kinger, I feel like we could have gone an hour with Hannah.
Yeah,
I feel like we could have gone
she's
an hour.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Could have quizzed her a lot. Just such a great point of view she has.
Yeah, and it was interesting hearing her talk about what I thought was a really compelling thing that she said was, we shouldn't have to stop loving the things we do because these leagues aren't getting it right.
Right.
Because that, to me, that would be really tough for a person in her situation where she essentially has to, because of her job,
Right.
she has to keep doing this and has to keep following these leagues. But and to my mind, I'm like, God, that would be tough. But she made a great point there.
Yeah, very smart lady.
Bold predictions.
Not so smart. Coming up.
Give it a go, Kinger.
Okay, first one I got. Obviously, it's going to hit. Belgium upsets Brazil in the World Cup quarterfinal. Did Lance just spit his drink out? Did he just spit his drink out?
It was close. Yeah, that's not happening.
It's soccer, baby. Anything can happen.
That's not
Belgium's
happening.
hot.
Yeah, Brazil is going to have their way with Belgium. I'll tell you what I would like to see. I would like to see Neymar actually be cleated. That would actually be okay. Like that rolling around.
Oh my
like
goodness.
that has got to stop.
Hey,
like Neymar, just make it stop. There's
bad
no
for the
need for
sport.
this.
Bad for the sport. But hey, Belgium, if they can just keep the ball out of their end, 0-0, go to penalty shots, that's the play for Belgium right there.
Oh, my word.
That's
Oh,
the play.
that's bold, baby.
Yeah.
All right. The Erik Karlsson situation in Ottawa is ugly. It's ugly with a capital U. Ugly. It's
Ugly.
But I'm going to say that Erik Karlsson re-signs with the Ottawa Senators because, King, if he does not, that city is being burned to the ground. To the ground. That's kind of like 2 bold predictions.
That was 2 bold predictions. 1, he's not, and 2, even better, I think they could lose their franchise if he doesn't sign.
And that's an interesting. It's interesting you say that because I've wondered that myself.
Yeah.
If he does not re-sign, if they cannot get him to re-sign, that's a big problem.
Like
the Senators already struggled to get fans in the building during the playoffs. That franchise cannot afford this.
It could be like Florida Phoenix attendance numbers if they don't have him around.
I would not be surprised, Kinger, if that is the beginning of the end of that franchise if he does not sign. Now, I thought I read somewhere that 8 years, $10 million is on the table, and then somebody made the point of saying that he's looking for a 7, like a Tavares type thing, 7 years, $11 million. So if that's what he's looking for, and it's a matter of the Senators coming up $1 million a year, what are you doing?
Yeah, you just do
Do
that.
it.
You don't even blink.
You do it.
It's a loyalty clause. That's what that is.
If you are going to nickel and dime a guy like that for $1 million a season, you have big, big problems.
Yeah. Not big problems with the Golden State Warriors now that they've signed Boogie Cousins.
Boogie.
The Warriors, who are back-to-back champions, will go 73-9 next season, breaking the best record.
73-9.
Yep.
Boogie Cousins isn't that. He doesn't make that.
Well,
big.
so Boogie won't probably play till January. This is the thing coming off the Achilles. I think the team's that good when you add Boogie. Like, it's crazy. 5 All-Stars starting. 5 All-Stars
It's
starting.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But you know, this goes to talk about like the culture they've created. They drafted guys, they kept guys, they created a culture where guys want to come.
And I don't have a problem with that.
No,
I don't have a problem
everyone's
with
like, oh, it's bad for the NBA. Well, guys want to play on a good team. Like that's the reality of it.
like LeBron.
Yeah, bad team. I hate the Lakers.
Yeah.
Moving on.
That's a good point. And you know, a lot of people are calling this, you know, a cowardly move. You know, this Boogie thing is a cowardly move based off his previous comments. But yeah, I mean, if you have a chance to go to a team that can win championships and feasibly will win a few more before this whole thing is disbanded, then why wouldn't you?
It happens in every sport. Just
Sure it does.
in basketball, there's like 5 really, really good teams. In other sports, guys chase titles.
Okay, so I've got Russia. The Russian soccer team moves into the semifinals of the 2018 World Cup simply because Russia has paid FIFA off. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
That's probably real. That's bold and real.
FIFA is arguably the most corrupt
It
organization.
It is.
Besides the IOC, the most corrupt organization. And I was reading some stuff that people were up in arms about Russia getting in or through to the round of 8, through to the quarterfinals, because there should have been, I believe, I didn't watch the match, but there should have been a penalty called late.
And a card, I think, should have been.
Yeah, there was a card. Like it's a mess. So you know, people are already on the Russia has paid FIFA, and I can't wait to see this next match. Like I can't wait to see how this goes down because I'm sure we're going to see some really fishy things.
I hope we don't, but I'm pretty sure we will.
Actually, I hope we do. I hope we do.
And then
It makes
FIFA
for an interesting
dissolves.
storyline. It makes for an interesting storyline that Russia may have paid FIFA and probably did.
Okay,
Probably.
I'm going to go back to basketball again.
Please.
One that we've talked about today. The LA Lakers and LeBron James
LeBron James
will not make the Western Conference playoffs. They will not make the playoffs.
Wow,
And I'm
that's bold.
Yeah, they will not make playoffs.
Did you see what that man did for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yeah,
in
that
the
team was
playoffs?
garbage. Yeah, but he's playing in a real conference now. Like
That's true.
There's 5 or 6 really,
And
really
it's
good
not like
teams.
he's doing it over the course of, 16 games.
Yeah.
He's got to go 82 with this
every
team.
night. Yeah, it's a different world for him.
I like it, Kinger.
Yep.
I kind of hope the same thing.
Me too. I'm denouncing the Lakers.
I'm denouncing the Lakers too.
We're back, and the gloves are still off.
All right, welcome back. We're going away from the ordinary a little bit, or away from the usual. Here,
Yes,
Kaner.
yes.
There was an incident that happened over the weekend that there was no other way to describe it other than basket brawl. We've heard of
unbelievable.
baseball and basketball. This is basketball and fighting, basket brawl.
Yeah.
It was wild between Australia and the Philippines in a FIBA qualifying match. There was a brawl that erupted with about 4 minutes left in the third quarter. And we wanted to discuss this for a short period of time here because it's worth it. Have you ever, I mean, you've been around basketball a long time, you've done a lot within the sport. Have you ever seen anything like that, ever?
I've never seen anything like that. Not even remotely close to Malice in the Palace, like back in the day,
Right.
the Pistons one. Not even close to this. This was unbelievable. And what happened here, Lance, is for any of you guys that get a chance to watch it, there's about a 7-minute video where you can watch the whole fight, and then after. Issues happen pre-game, a little bit of chirping, a little bit of elbowing. I don't really think that had anything to do with it late. Australia is up dummying the Philippines, and one of the Filipino players, Roger Poboy, I hope I'm saying that right, kind of throws a flying elbow at Chris Goulding. He stands in front of him, tries to take a charge. This guy literally launches himself, like body
It's like
checks
the
at
flying
him.
fist.
The Australia guy, like classic Aussie, just stands there and takes it, falls down. One of his teammates, Daniel Kickard, runs over, elbows him in the head, and then everything
All
hits the
hell
fan.
broke loose.
Everything hits the fan. There's flying leg kicks, there's flying punches, so the Australia guys get pushed to one side. One guy gets put behind the hoop and he's getting dummied in a headlock. Security's trying to jump in. Australia managed to keep their guys on the bench, and that was, we talked about this previously. Deladova managed to keep his guys on the bench, so good job by Delhi, an NBA player. Australia had NBA players on the floor that got hurt, punched in the head, flying drop kicks, and 2 of their guys got punched by fans on the way out. So this fight, I don't know what the ramifications are for FIBA if these teams end up getting disqualified or if those players aren't allowed to play, but both sides come out saying, Australia is saying, we need to defend ourselves. The Philippines are saying we are getting dummied, they were bullying us. It was easily the craziest thing I've ever seen, and when you watch the film, no one side is saying, hey, we had nothing to do with this. But the fact that the Filipino guys jumped in and fans and players is scary.
And so that's the thing that really got me, was when you watch the replay of it when it starts, the entire Philippines bench comes running over. The whole bench came in. And you could see the Australian players holding back. So there was 5 Australians, the 5 guys that were on the court, versus essentially 15 Filipino players and fans. And I think fans were throwing chairs. Like, one of the players got hit with a chair.
Yeah.
They were throwing chairs. Like, yeah, that was a chaotic scene. And I mean, what do you do if you're FIBA here? What are you doing? I mean, I think you have to. It's abundantly clear that the Filipino team cannot continue.
No,
they're not going to win anyways. They can't continue. But.
No, but I think they were 4-2 at that point, so they're close to like being in the qualifier. I think you have to kick them right out. You probably, unfortunately, have to do the same for Australia, who Australia is one of the top 15 teams in the world. So that's terrible for basketball. But you have to do that. You have to suspend the players. You have to suspend the coaches. 9 Filipinos ejected, 4 Australians ejected. The game finished 5-on-2, which is embarrassing for basketball. They should have just called the game at that point. But I don't think there's anything that FIBA is going to be able to do. But now, you can't hold events in the Philippines anymore. You can't hold major FIBA qualifiers because they didn't have the security for it. And there was fans rushing in. There was media guys in there. There was kicks and punches and chairs, as you said. Guys getting hit on the way out. They had to escort them out. It looks really poorly for basketball in general for the country, both countries, but more so for the host.
And it was interesting to me that, like we said, it was a 31-point lead for Australia at that point. So there's already, tensions are already high because they're getting absolutely dummied out there by Australia. But this started well into the pregame. I mean, guys were tussling before the game even started.
Yeah.
Some shoving. So the blood was already bad. But so whose fault is this? I mean, to me, this seems maybe like a bit of an officiating issue where they should have caught this right off the bat.
I think officiating is the big piece of the puzzle because at that point the game was so physical. Now FIBA is definitely more physical than the NBA because they let a lot of stuff go that you would never get away with. But guys should have been thrown out before this for cheap shots and borderline elbows. But then every single. I will give the Aussie guys credit. At least they kind of like tried to hold their own, other than Thon Maker's running drop kick.
Yeah, I don't know what
the
that
Filipino
was.
guys were just flying in, throwing haymakers.
yeah.
Like it was just a full street ball.
But you know, so if you're an NBA player and you've participated in this event, are you doing it again?
Never.
Are you doing it again?
No.
Like you potentially making millions of dollars playing in the NBA. Why are you even risking this?
No,
you're not.
And you look at like a guy like Dellavedova. There's no way he goes back. Ben Simmons, there's no way he goes. No. The only chance you have now of getting your big professional players is going to the Olympics, because they're not going to play the qualifiers. They don't want any part of this business.
If you haven't checked it out, go check it out.
Unbelievable.
It was wild, to say the least. Coming up on the other side is Albert Kinger. He's loaded up. There might be a couple of tweets in there about that.
I hope so.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
All right, welcome back. We were just talking off air more about that fight, and have you? Basketball fights are wild, right? Like guys running in and taking a swat, then running away, running away.
There was like a few like really good punches, and then there was a
But
lot
most
of this.
them were just
a
like
lot
this,
of,
like this, right?
Basketball fights are really bad for that. it did look a lot better when like the karate kicks were jumping in, and like the one guy had him headlocked and
The
just.
Thon Maker like flying knee, it was amazing. It was like bowling. He knocked over like 4 dudes. It was incredible. Okay, Kinger, you started off here.
Let's get going here. Tony X. The Celtics going through the East next season.
Like this is basically what it is.
Yeah, it will be about that easy.
Like that's what it is.
Yeah. Straight beatdowns all around.
Michael Lee, at Mr. Michael Lee. After reading this, all I can say is the Warriors have built an attractive program, and Draymond Green is the greatest recruiter this side of John Calipari. Be mad if you want. Just know this is what every sports fan wants from their team. Draft, develop, attract stars, and never settle. And that is exactly what we were talking about.
You can't be mad at him. It happens in every sport. New England Patriots.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got
There you
mail.
go. Pat McAfee. Putin walking out of the VAR truck.
Like this is exactly what would have happened after Russia won that game.
Oh yeah. No.
The Vince McMahon.
I can
swagger.
only imagine everything going on over
there's
in
mail.
Russia right now. Him and Trump are happy.
Okay, this is awesome. So this is Cespedes Family Barbecue. I don't know if you follow Cespedes, at Cespedes BBQ. June is over. The Orioles finished the month with 0 wins against American League teams. 0. The Orioles' last win against an AL team was May 25th. The Orioles are probably not going to make the postseason.
That's not good. 0 wins is not good.
Hey, there's mail.
Oh, I can only imagine the August-September attendance in Baltimore is going to be about 450 people per
And that's a
game.
beautiful ballpark.
Oh.
Like Camden Yards is a gorgeous park. And to
Yeah.
have nobody there is an absolute,
It's a shame.
Yeah.
And they're going to be bad for a long time.
long time.
Hence Cantor. Mood all around the league.
That's basically what it is. So like,
Yeah. Well, but you know what? Here's the thing I would argue against that is there's 6 really good teams. There's always usually 2 or 3 or 4. There's 6 really good teams in the league. It just happens to be 4 in the West.
Right.
You've got mail.
Pete Blackburn at Pete Blackburn. So this goes back to the Seattle Mariners, for some reason, Kinger, decided to use sleeveless jerseys.
Amazing.
Sleeveless jerseys. And he says baseball would be infinitely cooler if we brought back steroids and eliminated sleeves. And it's true. I've said this before. Like I would love to see a doping Olympics.
Oh.
Like imagine the feats, the things that would go on, and the records that you'd see. Like
This looked like a men's league slow pitch game with
it was
cutoffs.
unbelievable.
It
And most of the guys
awesome.
were wearing like T-shirts underneath
Yeah.
it. But I forget who that was.
Gordon.
It was D. Gordon. Came out without anything
No
underneath.
sleeves.
No
just-
sleeves. Like it's just
Tweet.
incredible stuff.
He's a beauty. We got Marshall Ferguson here.
unbelievable.
CFL After Dark hashtag.
Mike
CFL.
Sherman is a total hot mess here.
This is unbelievable. I've probably watched this 10 times. It is funnier every time you watch
Like,
it.
and this is exactly why the Montreal Alouettes are as inept as they are. Look at this. CFL After Dark.
You know if you can't get the mic right, you're not getting the playbook right.
Look at this. Like nobody put a shirt on underneath that man.
I'm surprised he didn't just throw his shirt off and then try to start over. Look at
Nobody.
this.
Look at it. Look at it tied up. Nobody needs to see that, Kinger.
You got mail.
Stop. Corporal Matthews.
Here we go.
We're back to normal here, Kinger. Mother, a nation celebrates its birthday weary and anxious. We've requested reinforcements, but await word if he shall join the campaign. Though painfully slow and deliberate in his actions, he makes up for it with his keen sharpshooting. I don't know if I shall hug or kill him. A.M. I'm a big fan.
Poetry at its finest right there.
I love those. I can't get enough.
Sean McKenzie, at Sean McKenzie. Refreshing my Twitter at noon.
So deadline or
Yeah.
free agency day. That's
Free
that's
agent
exactly.
frenzy. Yeah, I was guilty.
Were you
too.
like this?
Oh,
This was me.
I was hitting refresh.
Yeah.
All over the place.
And you know what it's like? You're trying to keep up with it, but it's like, at the top it says 8 new tweets, 16 new tweets, 20 new tweets, and you're like, oh my word, I can't keep up with
I'll
this.
tell you with the NBA stuff this weekend. We're on the bus and the kids were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
so and so."
oh, yeah.
There's
For
mail.
sure. Larry Brooks. This is, in fact, exactly where I heard about the Senators thing. Senators have given interested teams permission to talk contract extensions with Karlsson. Sounds if he's looking for Doughty deal. Sorry, it was 8 by 11. 8 times 11. 8 years, 11 million per season. Average annual value, I think, is what he's looking for. So apparently the Sens had talked to him about 8 years, 10 million a season. Come on, man. Go up one more. Even 2.
You're
even
pot committed.
12 mil a season.
You're pot committed. Just do it.
Make
Or
it happen.
there's no more hockey.
Hey, there's mail.
Okay.
Not in the playoffs, anyways.
I really love that we got some Atlanta Braves in here. Rob Freeman at Pitch Ninja, who is amazing. Max Fried, high fastball and a curveball
Dude,
overlay.
you know how much we love these.
So this is a rookie, first year in the show. Look at his stuff.
Oh, that
Filth.
curve is absolutely nasty.
Yeah, he's going to be good. He's one of 3 lefties they have coming up right now.
You've got mail.
Dan Carcillo. So Dan Carcillo, clearly a big advocate for concussions, mental health issues. So this goes back to a Brett Gardner collision that he had with the outfield wall a little while ago.
yep.
I'm not sure if you remember
Yep.
this. So asked if Gardner shaking his head after the collision was not enough of an indicator, Boone said, Boone is the manager,
Yeah.
of course, I think we felt good where he was, his mental state. How can that assessment be made from the dugout? And how can it be made from the dugout?
Just waving. You good? You good? You good?
You're okay out there? Good.
good.
Yeah, you only collided with the wall and had trouble getting up.
I don't know how a trainer, manager, coach is not fined or written. I don't know how they do that, but
Hey, there's
there's got to be a
mail.
protocol in place.
Protocol
There is a
should just
protocol
be
in place.
immediately he comes off the field. All right, bang it
Okay,
one more.
last
Kinger.
one. Jaron Jackson Jr. is all of us after hearing
Western
the boogie
Conference
news.
is a tough place. DeMarcus Cousins now apparently a Golden State Warrior.
I feel
Looking for a
this-
reaction.
Now,
It happened. It happened.
I feel like that's how every
Absolutely
player
serious.
reacted in the league
Well-
when they heard that. I mean, what do you think? I think so.
I thought the same. I
You
thought it
think?
was a joke. I thought it was a fake account.
Well, it wasn't because it was verified. All the accounts talking about it was verified.
Yeah.
It was, it's a mess. Golden State's going to be pretty good.
I'm excited to watch them again.